Well, Brian, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing this fine day?
Keith, it's great to be here, man. Thanks for having me on your show.
I'd love to have this conversation with you. I'm looking forward to talking to you. I love having entrepreneurs on who can share their stories and inspire those of us who dream to be an entrepreneur one day. So
Awesome, man. Yeah, I'm CEO of a company called GreenPal, which is an app that works like Uber but for lawn mowing services. So I
see,
thank
I
you for
like that.
let me tell my story about how we built it.
That's so cool. Let's get to know you a little bit better. So give me the best piece of advice you've ever received.
Best piece of advice I ever received. I heard first off, I believe in mentorship, but I believe in what I call asynchronous mentorship. And these days, you can get mentored by anybody. And I have lots of mentors who I've never met. And one time I was listening to an interview by this guy by the name of Brad Feld, who is a famous venture capitalist. And he said, listen to your customers or you will have none. And that simple, that simple advice is something I try to carry with me every day because customers sometimes can like try your patience, and especially the American consumer can be a little insatiable at times, but you have to listen to your customers or you will have none.
I love that. And it works well in the church too. Listen to your members or you'll have no church. So
Exactly. Exactly. I wish it worked in politics, but it doesn't work in politics. It doesn't seem like.
yeah, well, we all wish that.
Yeah, right.
I
We
even write
won't
to
go
my
there.
I even write to them, they still don't listen to me. So
Yeah, right, right. Yeah, that doesn't work.
I reach out hoping they'll listen. Uh, so I'm always curious, people like yourself, like you just kind of mentioned, there's always those people in our lives who have been really inspiration to us, maybe even mentor. Who are a couple people in your life that you want to kind of give a shout out to who have meant so much to you in your journey?
So I am so lucky that I had good parents. My dad forced me to mow my first yard when I was 14 years old. He got tired of watching me play Nintendo all day, and he said one day in 1994 he said, "Hey, get off your butt. I got a gig for you." I talked to the neighbor. They need somebody to mow their yard, and I said, "I don't mow yards." He said, "Well, you do now," and he made me go mow the neighbor's yard. I got paid $20. And I remember I was hooked. I was hooked on the idea that I could just go mow people's yards and make money. This is awesome. I could just work as hard as I wanted to work and make as much money as I wanted to make. And that just clicked for me. And so I don't know where my life would how my life would have been different had that not happened. And so that was a very lucky thing for me. And so that was huge. And then as I grew, I had a little lawn mowing business. As I grew that lawn mowing business, I was working for people in the community that could afford gardening services. And so I was around business owners and insurance brokers and bankers and lawyers. And I started noticing that these people were successful, but they weren't particularly like brilliant or anything. They were just normal people. And that like made it appear to me that maybe I could be successful one day. And so that was kind of cool. And it was kind of neat to see that. And so I got lucky there. And I got lucky growing up in Nashville, Tennessee, which was a growing community. And I got a lot of my success has been luck and hard work combined. And so I guess my mentors have always been customers of mine, and then my parents, and then these days it's YouTube University. I'm always listening to talks and podcasts and conferences and things like that.
That's amazing. And it's so interesting how your beginning started, which seems so simply, but something inside of you instilled this desire to go further and more. And I think that's what so many of us miss out on, that there is something often inside of all of us that we either ignore or we're afraid to pursue, but there's something that's driving us. As I'm glad that you found that and turned it into something that you love.
I think in life, if you aren't gaining ground, if you aren't growing, if you aren't moving forward, then it can feel really discontent very quickly. And that's happened to me a few times. It happened to me in my first business. I ran it for 15 years, grew it to 150 employees, and then I sold it. And the reason I sold it was because I kind of plateaued in terms of the growth of the business and the challenges of the business. and I didn't feel the passion for it because I wasn't being challenged by it. And then when I sold it, I thought, well, I'm just going to like kick back and not work so hard anymore. And I was no longer challenged by life anymore. I didn't have a project. I didn't have like there wasn't the answer to this question. If I don't get out of bed today, why does it matter? Or if it wasn't for me, then what? And like if it wasn't for me, then what? And I think the answer to that question should be something really important, like your business, your church family, your family, your kids, or whatever. You need to have a really important answer to that question. And I didn't have an important answer to that question, so I had to start another business. And so now, if it wasn't for me, then GreenPal wouldn't exist. And there's hundreds of thousands of people that use the app, and there's business owners that use it that rely on it for their livelihood. And I take that very seriously. And so I look for ways to force myself to grow and take on new challenges because if not, I'm going to be really discontent really quick.
Right. So tell us about GreenPal. What is it, and how do people use it?
Yeah, GreenPal is an app that works like DoorDash or Instacart. You know, these apps that make things really convenient and simple. Uber, but for lawn mowing services. So if you need a grass cutting service, rather than calling all over Angie's List or Craigslist or at Facebook or something, you just download GreenPal, you pop your address in, and then lawn mowing services compete over your lawn, and then you can hire the one you want to work with, and then if it works out, you can pay them right through the app, and then you can set it up for the whole season to happen like magic. And we've been at this for about 10 years. It's a 10-year overnight success, and around 300,000 people now are using the app to get lawn mowing services done. It started off in Nashville, Tennessee, where we live. We spent 3 years just in Nashville. At the end of our third year, we had 100 users, and so it started off very slow. But as time went on, we started figuring out the recipe for how to expand it and how to get it into other cities, and also, quite frankly, improving it. You know, people would tell us everywhere the app needed to be improved, everywhere they wished it would be better, and we just kept making it better and better and better and better. And now it works pretty good. You know, you can sign up and get a lawn mowing service to come mow your yard the same day for a good price.
So you actually listened to your customers. You took the opening advice.
If you don't, it's going to be hard. You know, a lot of things in business and in life. You know, if you do things that are hard, business is easy. If you do things that are easy, business is hard, and life is kind of like that too.
You know, you said something I think we sometimes don't understand about entrepreneurs and about business. You just said it took 10 years to be successful. We hear so often, you know, I woke up and I was an overnight sensation. And when I've talked to the entrepreneurs, right, I know that's just not typically the case. The
Right.
success took time, it took effort, it took work. And so tell us about kind of what kept you going when it didn't just take off right away.
Yeah, it's like there are no silver bullets. It's just lead bullets, and
That's
it's just
right.
like there is no bright shiny object or one move on the chessboard that wins the game. It's always like a grind, and pretty much every overnight success that you see, it's like there's always 7 years that the founder was working on something else, or they were in high school, were working on something, you know, they were tinkering with it, or, you know, it was like, and that was what laid the foundation for the seemingly overnight success. The overnight success is sexy and it sells well, and that's why it's sold to us, but it's always like a grind. And that's how it's been for me for two businesses. And what kept me going was that I made a decision that no matter what, I was just going to work on my best idea. And that's it. By default, I was just going to work on my best idea. I was going to go into the office and I was just going to do whatever I could and on the best idea I had. And then on top of that, I'm not terribly creative. I've had one good idea in a decade. This is it. You should push a button and you should be able to hire a lawn mowing service. That's it. That's my best idea. And I've had that idea for 12 years, and that's the only good idea. So I've been working on it for 12 years. And so those two things combined is what got my team and I through the first 3 or 4 years, which were really hard. It was kind of like trying to push a rope up a hill. It was really challenging getting this thing going. Um, that and then also celebrating really small victories. I think it's important to keep some momentum going and to dial down your expectations. Elon Musk has a quote. He says, "Success is expectations minus results." So, what did you expect to happen? What actually happened? The end result is success or happiness or whatever. And so if you can like calibrate your expectations and goals to something attainable, knock those down, then you'll feel successful. And so that kind of what we did. Like we wanted to get 100 customers, and we felt like if I could get 100, I can get 1,000. And if I can get 1,000, I can get 10,000. And so at 100, I thought would take 2 months. It took 2 years. But when we got 100, I man, we celebrated it like it was a million. And because it was an indication to me that we could take the 100 and turn it into 1,000, and eventually we did. And so that's how we kept going, man. And that's how we didn't give up. And I think that's what holds a lot of founders back is they get bright shiny object syndrome, and they kind of go from one idea to the next and don't give one idea enough time.
Two things I want to dig deeper into because I just got done doing a doctoral study on organizational change, and one of the key factors I noticed that when organizations don't succeed and change is they don't celebrate the short term wins, and I think I also added share stories. So, how important is it to celebrate those wins, just in terms of momentum for your organization?
It really, I mean, it's critical because a lot of this is managing your own psychology. And a lot of what goes into the longevity of you being able to run the marathon and last the long haul is to manage your own psychology, to show up day in, day out. A lot of a lot of like superpowers are just consistency. And the ability to stay consistent is just managing your psychology to show up and stay on that grind. And so celebrating those little small milestones kind of helps you manage that psychology along the way. And that certainly was the case for us. I think James Clear's book Atomic Habits talks a lot about this. And if you can, not necessarily sandbag, not necessarily make little small goals that are meaningless, but make attainable goals and knock them down and feel good about it, um, and then celebrate those, and then set the next set of goals and keep the momentum going. I think is important, particularly when you're trying to get something going from scratch, when you're going from 0 to 1. And it's important for these goals to be actually like meaningful. And what I mean by that is like when you're starting a new business, it's like actual customers. Like the goal shouldn't be 1,000 followers on Instagram. The goal should be 10 customers that I did business with last week, and next week it's going to be 15. And I'm going to do everything I got to do to get the 15. So it can't be vanity goals that aren't tied to actual progress. When you're starting a business, there's really only two things that matter. It's working on the business or the service or the product and getting people to use that business, use that service. It's those two things. And you really anything else other than that, whether it be going to a conference, playing on social media, what's my TikTok strategy, all of these things probably don't matter.
It's funny. I just had an SEO expert on my podcast. He was talking about the same thing. That he's like, likes don't pay the bills. You can the mortgage company does not come and say how many likes did you have or how many likes can you give me towards your mortgage this week. They want
Totally.
actual dollars.
Totally. And maybe in some world where if you had a clothing brand and you were trying to sell on Facebook or something, maybe, but in most cases, no. And so yeah, it boils down to two things: building the product and getting people to use the product. If you're doing anything other than those two things, you're wasting your time.
I wonder for an entrepreneur like yourself, how much does the fear of failure play into your mindset and your thinking?
Yeah, I think the fear of failure is good because for me, it's like the fear of not failure, but the fear of lack of progress. So the fear of a year. So I've done this several times where I'll close my eyes and I'll visualize a year from today. And a year from today, I'm dealing with the same problems, same amount of customers, same amount of sales, teams the same size, and it's the same impact, same revenue. You know, it's like everything's the same, and like that scares me to take action today, to work in the business today, and make sure that we're not stagnant a year from today. And so that fear is good. Like that causes me to take action. So that's good. And then also the fear of being ahead of your skis, like imposter syndrome. People talk about imposter syndrome as a bad thing. I think it's a good thing. If you're feeling imposter syndrome, it's an indication that you are pushing the envelope, that you are growing, because you'll grow into it. You'll grow into whatever it is you are feeling uneasy about. And so that's a good indication that you are growing and you're pushing the envelope, but trying to get somewhere that you aren't. And so that's how I think about these things, and they're usually a good indication that you're going in the right direction.
So you have an app that gets people help, do lawn care service for you. How do you make sure that the people that are sign up on your app align with your goals and your standards as someone who did this job before?
Yeah, it's like there's a quote. Is Warren Buffett or Charlie Munger? He says, "Show me the incentives, I'll show you the results." And so we have had to architect the rules and the way that the platform is built to deliver a certain result. And so right off the bat, lawn care services that sign up to use it have to meet a minimum threshold in order to use the platform to run their business. But that doesn't really predict any sort of successful outcome if they're going to do a good job for their clients or not. We have to actively measure them. Do they show up on time? And that's a big one. Do they show up on the days they're supposed to do a good job for their customers? Do they get booked for a second, third, and fourth mowing? That's a big one, because if a lawn care service is never getting booked for a second or third visit, that indicates that people aren't happy with their service. And so those are two main data points that we measure. And then also a rating system. People rate the services from 1 to 5 stars. And so those are three ways that we measure. Okay, these are the good service providers, and these are the ones that aren't so good, and these are the ones flat out that don't belong on the platform, that just aren't taking this business seriously. And then even worse, these are the ones that are fraudulent.
Oh,
Let's make sure those are gone. And so it's the platform's job to regulate and promote the ones that are good and demote the ones that aren't good. So as a consumer, this consumer can come onto the platform and say, and get a good experience and can hire a reliable contractor without having to go through the headache of doing it the old way and just going through one to the next, and getting ghosted, getting flaked on, or getting a bait and switch pulled on them. There's all kinds of things that happen, and it's our platform's job to mitigate those.
how many chances does a company get before they get the final heave ho?
Well, so fraud, one strike you're out. So like let's say a contractor bills their customer for work they didn't do, they're gone. So that's one. Um, and then ratings, in terms of you have to keep a rating above 75% in terms of mowing lawns on the day you're supposed to. And if you fall below that, the system stops sending you new opportunities for new business. And then if you fall below, I think it's 30%, that you're expelled from the platform. And the same, there's same tipping points for the ongoing rating as well. And so it's kind of like a stair step on your way out. You stop getting new opportunities to grow, and then you stop getting access to the platform. And so that's how the system regulates itself in terms of, okay, these are the guys or gals that are good, these are the guys or gals that aren't so good, and that way consumers don't have to have those negative experiences.
That's great. On the customer side, I'm sure you have to have some safeguards on that side. So how do you on the
Yeah,
customer side, how does that work on the customer side?
yeah, it ain't all it ain't all vendors that are unscrupulous or that need to be regulated. There's bad actors on the consumer side as well. One in particular, and this was caught me by surprise in the early days when we were building this, was a bad behavior from consumer side. Is they will if you let a certain segment of consumers, they will wait until June to get their first mowing when the grass is 4 feet tall, and then okay, and then poor contractor comes out and mows it, and it gets it all nice and neat, and then they'll come back and order another one September 1st,
Oh no.
and then you don't go the whole season mowing it 2 times. Happens if you let that happen, a lot of people will use the system that way, and so we've had to build in a user experience where okay, you just first off your grass is 4 feet tall, so no, the $35 price that you saw is not valid. The contractor has indicated it's going to be $225 to get it back under control, and then from there on you need to sign up for every 2 week mowings at $35. Do you agree to this? No, I just want the $35 to get my 4 feet grass. Well, that's not what this is. So either you can kindly go somewhere else, or you can sign up for this offering. And there are two options. And you can do this, or you can go to Craigslist, or you can use GreenPal. And so those are the options. And so we've had to build that. And then after the first mowing, you need to fall into a cadence of service. And if you don't get to use the system. And so that's something we've had to build. There's a lot of fraud that occurs on the if you let it happen, fraud will occur on the consumer side as well with bad credit cards, multiple accounts and multiple like I mentioned earlier, like signing up once every 3 months. If you let it happen, they'll create multiple accounts with different email addresses. We've had to build in all kinds of detection to make sure that that doesn't happen. So it goes on and on and on. So when you have a platform like this, it's kind of like it's like all of the bottom feeders from both sides of the transaction will come to it, and so it's the platform's job to combat that bad activity. And if you let it occur, then the marketplace will not work. And so that's part of what we've had to build.
I
It's
just
crazy.
I can't imagine all that you had to discover as you were
Mm.
going through this. I mean, it is sad that you have so many people on both sides who just are just, unscrupulous. Why?
Yeah, well, now here's the thing. It's like 1-2%, but when you're doing
Right.
thousands of transactions per day, it happens all the time. And
Sure.
so then it clogs your support, and so your support seemingly is dealing with it all of the time. And so then you can have a very jaded perspective of the world when in fact 98% of the activity and 98% of the folks that are using your technology are using it as designed and are using it in good faith. But when you scale up, these negative these bad actors, they scale with it,
Right.
and unfortunately, a lot of times the only way to deal with them is by hand cranking through a resolution. And as time has gone on, we have built ways to keep them out by making the product kind of bulletproof.
So I'm curious what you've solved some of those problems. What's the next innovation of the app that you're working on now?
Yeah, it one big one that we've been working on for a year, and we probably have a year to go. Is if you remember back in the day, Airbnb, maybe back in 2012 or 13, if you wanted to book a house or a spare bedroom, you had to send an inquiry for that person, and then they would like review your inquiry and confirm that you could stay there. And it was like a ping pong back and forth. And now with most of their listings, you can just instantly book it. and we've come to take that for granted. But Airbnb is like $100 billion company, and it took them a long time to build that to where you could reliably instantly book that property. And so we are building that for lawn care, where we have all the data and we can say, okay, we know Joe's lawn service mows these yards and this zip code, and he has indicated that he will do these lawns that are these square foot at this price, and he will be there on Thursday, so you can instantly book him. We probably still have a year to go to make it perfect, but that's the next innovation we're working on.
So just to kind of walk me through, so I sign up for the app. I want to get lawn care. What do I need to, what am I looking at in terms of starting the process? Is it if I sign up, am I looking at a week before I probably get someone? How's that work just technically for the user?
Yeah, so as a consumer, pop your address in. It's our job, it's our goal to deliver you 5 quotes in 60 seconds. And you can read the reviews, look at the ratings, the reliability rating and the ongoing rating, and hire the one you want to work with based on the combination of ratings and price. Then uh, 90% of the appointments booked on the platform are for the next day, and they occur the next day. Sometimes they can do it the same day. Like if you book it early in the morning, they can come in the afternoon. And so that's most of the use case. It's I need somebody today or tomorrow, and let's get it done. And then after that, most of the use cases every 2 weeks. Around 75% of the people that use the platform do it every 14 days, and then 25% do it every 7 days. You can't stretch it out any longer than 14 days. It just grows too tall. And yeah, and that's how it works. And if you like it, you just set it up for every week or every 2 weeks, and it just happens.
So you mentioned we talked about cutting the grass. Is there anything else that the app does in terms of lawn care?
Yeah, so the lawn mowing is kind of the entry use case. It's the um, it's the thing that everybody gets when you get to the homepage or a web or landing page. I believe that you have 3 seconds to answer 3 questions. Where am I? What can I do here? And why does it matter? And for us, it's like this is the easiest way to get a lawn mowing service to mow your yard today, even if it's 4 feet tall. That's it. That's what it does. After you are onboarded and that worked for you, then you can layer on shrubs, mulch, gutter cleaning, weed pulling, um, leaf removal, seeding, pretty much every yard maintenance service you can think of. You can't order these a la carte services on the homepage because it's just too difficult to price those in the Uber-like way, and it just convolutes the service offering and it makes everything confusing. And so we have purposely gated those to make them available as you onboard for the lawn mowing. And so as you use it for lawn maintenance, you can use it for everything. And then also, same is to be said for snow plowing if you are up north. Well, a lot of people use it for snow plowing during the wintertime.
Cool. Because I have a brown thumb. I couldn't grow anything.
Yeah, that's what GreenPal is here for, to help you find somebody that can to help you with that.
My wife and I joke we could kill plastic plants. So
I like that. I have to remember that one.
this is really neat. This is a neat service. It's an important service because I live in a smaller area, so it's hard to find people that you can trust and rely on. And so it's kind of a hit and miss kind of a thing. You call the company, you hope that they're reliable, you give them a chance, and you kind of well, pray that it works out for you.
Well, it seems like it's a not an important thing, but the I like to think, I've spent a decade on this. The very nature of what we do is a public good, for a couple reasons. On the consumer side, if you're a single mother and you're facing a city fine because you're just trying to like keep your head above water, and like now the city's breathing down your neck because your grass is too tall. Like GreenPal has got thousands of stories where that has come to help people in that situation. And then, but more importantly, on the small business owner side, I mean, we have so many stories. People, thank you, GreenPal. I was able to pay off student loan debt, or I was able to buy a riding lawnmower, or I was able to save up a down payment for a house, or put a kid through school. Um, so that's really why we exist. It really is to help small business owners grow their business and do it so in a way that's straightforward and demystified, and then help consumers with this chore get it done quickly, offering them a nice convenience.
Wow, that's really neat. So anything I haven't asked you that I should have asked you?
Yeah, maybe a lot of people think, "Oh, I would love to start an app. I would love to start
Yeah.
an app like that." And yeah, you can do it. You can do it. And I think it's worth doing. But a couple things. Um, get some domain experience in it first. For me, I had a landscaping business for 15 years. And so then I started an app that made the landscaping business run smoother. So I think that's the first thing. And then the second thing is be willing to go backwards before you go forwards. For me, I wasn't able to pay myself anything with GreenPal for like 3 years. And so be willing to take a pay cut starting a business like this. Those are two pieces of advice I would give for anybody wanting to go on a journey like this.
Where can people find the GreenPal app if they say, "Hey, this sounds really great. I got to start this tomorrow because my
Yeah.
lawn is getting out of control and I don't want to cut the grass anymore"?
Awesome. Yeah. Check it out, greenpal.com or greenpal in the App Store. And anybody want to hit me up, find me on LinkedIn or Instagram.
I thank you for this. Was a great talk. I'm curious. I like to ask my guests this question: what do you want your legacy to be?
My legacy, I would hope, God forbid I die tomorrow, and at my funeral, I would hope somebody would show up and say, you know what, that guy, he wasn't the smartest dude, but because I knew him, I was able to get somewhere in life that I would not have been able to go otherwise. He helped me get from here to here. And thank God I met that guy, and because he helped me achieve something that I wouldn't have been able to achieve otherwise. So that's what I hope my legacy would be.
That's awesome. So, for a young entrepreneur who's listening to our podcast, you got 30 seconds. What do you want to pour into a young entrepreneur?
Well, young entrepreneur. Okay, that's an important distinction. Well, I think there's a myth that is dispelled onto young entrepreneurs that your 20s are just here to figure out what it is you want to do, and it's okay, and it's not a big deal, and what I no like your 20s. I mean, that is the time to grind and get on first base. Like, you have got to make use of your 20s. Like, develop a skill, work as hard as you can, to get a foundation going. So then you're in your 30s, you can really swing for the fences. Or if you're in your 30s, same thing. Like, you really you cannot waste time, because the older you get, the harder it's going to be, because you get house payments and car payments and student loans and kids and things like that. So if you're a young entrepreneur, get in the game, get in the game now. You can take risks and put in the reps and start learning. And the only way you're going to learn is by failing. And it's okay if you fail 5 or 10 times. You only got to be right once. So it's going to take you a few years to figure it out, but get started now, because it goes by quick. Trust me.
That's awesome. As we wrap up our conversation, what are some key takeaways you want our listeners to remember from our discussion today?
You know, um, I think I would want them to remember that authenticity is a competitive advantage. For me, I spent 15 years in the landscaping business, so I felt like I could bring that authenticity. I had the specific knowledge to bring it to run the Uber for lawn care. So that would be the first thing. The second thing I would like for them to take away is that you have to be willing to go backwards to go forwards. Let's say you're climbing a mountain and you realize, oh crap, I'm going up the wrong side of the mountain. I got to go all the way back to the bottom to go up the right side of the mountain. You got to be willing to do that. And so if you want to start a business, you're going to have to be willing to take a pay cut. and do that for a while to go back. You have to go backwards to go forwards. And then the third thing is, I was a landscaper, and then I became a tech entrepreneur. And so I had to teach myself how to code. I had to become an engineer. I didn't have the title of engineer. I didn't have that title. And so I think a takeaway would be you don't have to have a title. Just because you're not a designer or an engineer or a coder or or an architect or an accountant or whatever it is, like you can do these things. You can go to YouTube University and learn whatever you got to learn. So don't ask for permission. Just do it. Would be three takeaways.
I love it. Where can people find you and learn more about you?
Yeah, LinkedIn's great, and then also Instagram, Brian M. Clayton. Just drop me a DM on either one of them.
Well, Brian, thanks so much for this conversation and your engaging spirit and your entrepreneurial spirit. And thanks for pouring into my audience and just kind of let them know your story. And hopefully they'll sign up for your app and get their lines done.
Awesome, Keith. Well, thank you for having me on your show, man. This has been a lot of fun.
All right. Blessings, my friend.